I witnessed so many things that were real that no one had ever spoken about. No one ever dies. I was completely paralyzed. I was blind, and I was burning and on fire. And then what really happens is this. Once you escape this body, as I started to enter this crystal city, and the being that was with me merged with me, although it was my higher consciousness, I don't know. But I was there alone in front of these 13 beings, and the upper right being would designate one of these beings, and that being would begin to shimmer. The being of light said, if you keep doing what you've been doing, which is the aftermath of the Vietnam War, Korea, and World War II, then this is the probable possibilities of what's going to happen. There is a question that you'll ask yourself, and this is my way of saying it. You know, it's not the way, it's my way. If God could not come today, or whatever you hold to be divine, could not come today and it sent you, in the life you just reviewed, what difference did you and God make? I was just a jackass, tough guy, bully, sports, fist fighter, United States Marine Corps. That mindset. I didn't care anything about any of this kind of stuff, any of these kind of conversations. I grew up in the deep South. Everybody goes to hell where I come from. So I already knew what was going to happen to me in that religious point because of fundamentalism. And so I had no interest in this until one day I was struck by lightning talking on the telephone. And I discovered that I was a spiritual being with absolutely nowhere to go, with absolutely no way to escape the fact that I not only was a spiritual being, that I had chosen and was chosen to be here at this particular time. Nowhere to go. And on top of that, I was dead. I was completely paralyzed. I was blind, and I was burning and on fire because of the damage done by the electrocution burning my nerve endings. And both of these things happened at the same time. So I had to grow up really fast, learn how to walk, learn how to quit messing in my pants, and go from Superman to a helpless cripple who was never given more than 6 months to live because of the damage done on the inside of me, to dealing with the fact that I am a spiritual being like everyone that's here. And not only that, I was chosen, and I chose to be here at this time, at this point in history, and that I had come per breath. So that's who I was and who I am. And then what really happens is this. Once you escape this body, you have this opportunity to have what's called a life review. And it's where you see your entire life pass before you in a 360-degree panorama. And you have missed nothing. You know everything that you have ever seen. And you watch it from a second-person point of view as though you were your own best friend. And then you literally become every person that you ever encounter. And you feel the direct results of your interaction between you and that person. Most of mine was experiencing pain and anguish and suffering and the brutality that the nature of my life had created. And some good things. But somewhere along in you see in your life, you understand that you live in a world that has goals, structure, and parameters to it. And it has responsibilities and intentional actions that define it. It's not airy fairy, loose, woo woo. You got to do this, you got to do that. There are rules and energetic patterns that you function in, and that the world is fair and just, and no one gets away with anything. Nobody gets away. So the power of forgiveness means you take one step to the right and get out of the line of fire so that the divine system gets them while you're standing between you and them. One of the greatest lessons is to learn to forgive. I think that when you see your life pass before you, Lauren, and you watch it from a second person point of view, then you literally become every person that you ever encounter. Then what you have to do is there is a question that you'll ask yourself, and this is my way of saying it. It's not the way, it's my way. If God could not come today, or whatever you hold to be divine, could not come today and it sent you in the life you just reviewed, what difference did you and God make? I became a hospice volunteer. I built the largest end of life care volunteer program for dying veterans in American history. And I am the co-author of the standard end of life care model now used by the Veterans Administration in their program for veterans. So as I sit here this evening talking to you, if I had to look back over my life and had to give it a value, the value would be this. When I came to the VA in 1984, it did not have a hospice or a palliative care program. Today it has both, and I am partially responsible for that creation. So I made life better for Patton veterans, and I found it. After I had the panoramic life review, I had a being with me. And as I looked, and I'd always described this as like if you were driving into Denver at night, Denver, Colorado, you would see all these houses on the sides of the mountains that would light up and illuminate the sky. And you have a light fog, it's so beautiful. So it was a crystal city. It was about built of light. And as I started to enter this crystal city, and the being that was with me, I don't know how to say other than the word merged. The being that was with me merged with me, although it was my higher consciousness. I don't know. But I was there alone in front of these 13 beings, 12 beings in front of me and another being to my upper right. And the upper right being would designate one of these beings, and that being would begin to shimmer till it was all I saw was the outline of that silvery being and the pastel red, orange, blue, green, gold, violet, and hues of that. And it would send like a box at me. It was like, I would say, like a laptop or I always laugh about it, but it's the only thing I can use to describe. And I would enter this event. And it was different from the heaven place because I could smell burning flesh and I could see rotting and I could see buildings and I could see greenery and I could smell the smells, and I was actively as though I was a physical person there. And then it would recede, and I went through 12 of these boxes, and the predicator of it was the being of light said, if you keep doing what you've been doing, which is the aftermath of the Vietnam War, Korea, and World War II, then this is the probable possibilities of what's going to happen. So I wrote these down in 1977 because it took me 2 years to learn to walk and feed myself. And they never were my prophecies. See, they never had anything to do with me. It was the beings of light showing me. And I think the only thing, Lauren, that I had a part of is maybe my ability to interpret, because I wrote this down in 1977 and I put it in the book in 1993 in the 27-year-old Daniel Brinkley, not the 60, but not then the 40-year-old Daniel Brinkley. Okay, but I needed people to see what I saw when I saw it, because Save was about the journey of where I was going and who I was. And I wrote that book because I saw so many people with nowhere to turn. They have this experience that forces them to see themselves as spiritual beings. That's the biggest crisis that we who've had this experience have. Where do you go? You are a spiritual being, and there is a spiritual place, and the way they say you're going to die never happens. Never. If we keep doing the same thing we've always been doing, which is starting wars and killing children and killing people and blowing up crap in 2024 and threatening people, then we came to the place that would be World War III. And here's some of the things that I foretold from the boxes of knowledge: Chernobyl, Fukushima, climate change, which I called climate religion, and the pandemic. I described the pandemic in detail, literally in detail. Chip implants. This is 1977, but it happened in 75. I witnessed so many things that were real that no one had ever spoken about. No one ever dies. It will never happen. And anyone who tells you that you're going to die is either a liar, a fool, or someone who's fallen for religion, institutional, or government constructs. The ultimate delusion and illusion. But when you start thinking about reincarnation, I have no direct related experience to reincarnation in any of my experiences. Okay, but do I believe in reincarnation? Yes, because I've seen the multiple possibilities of the choices that come once you get to the other side. You're always been getting handed flyers about what you could do next. What can you do next? Think about hanging out in heaven. Somebody comes around and gives you a flyer. He says, "Look, how would you like to hold somebody? To hug and hold somebody. We don't hug over here. We communicate and connect. How would you like to hug somebody and to hold somebody and see them separate from you? And how would you like to be able to co-create like God, to create life, where that love and holding somebody combines into a union that creates life, a human being, a being that a divine spiritual being can enter this plane to work upon its existence, to unfold what its job is here, to create that vessel for which it can come." Well, when you're hanging out in heaven, that's some interesting stuff, Laura. Wait a minute. I get to practice being a god? Whoa, wait a minute. I get to see myself from a distance. I get to hug somebody I love. Yeah, yeah, why not? I mean, this is how it works. It's everybody's so dreary. It's just not like that, everybody. It's just not. I mean, we are playful, wonderful, caring beings. I always say this: you are a great, powerful, and mighty spiritual being with dignity, direction, and purpose. The only thing that can ever go wrong is you allow something to affect your dignity, which will skew your direction and your purpose. And the greatest thing that people allow to affect their dignity is their opinion of themselves based on the rules of religions, institutions, and governments, not of your divine self. I'm telling you the truth. And let me add something else to that. Because of being struck by lightning and had a second near death experience, because of being struck by lightning, I had to have brain surgery in 1997. And because of being struck by lightning, I had to have open heart surgery again, and I had to be resuscitated after the surgery. 3 days after being resuscitated, I went into cardiac arrest and had to be resuscitated 2 more times. So add that to this. I've been a hospice volunteer for 47 years. I've been with 2,017 people going from this world to the next. And I've been with 358 people taking their last breath. And I have been studying this thing we call death for 50 years. So I know what I'm talking about. I hope that the people who listen to this and your generation understand that they will never die. It's never going to happen. Never. Second, 95% of everyone who's ever had a near death experience said they lifted out of their body and they saw their body on the bed or in the car wreck or their body and they observed it. Well, point number two, you're not going to die, but if you lift out of your body and you see your body, that means you're not your body. Think of that as a revelation to what the near death experience brings. It's a part of the near death or dying process. You lift out of your body. Then you acclimate yourself to the world that you're leaving, and you begin to perceive the new system of laws and dynamics that were affecting your non-physical self. I mean, everybody has this that's had a near-death experience. Most of mine were basically the same. I'd lift out of my body and see myself lying on the operating table, or seeing myself lying across the bed when I was first struck. The only one that was a little different, Lauren, was the brain surgery. Because in the brain surgery, I was standing at the end of the bed looking at the surgeon drilling holes in my head. So it was a different position. And before I had my near death experiences, let's say you looked at it from a cosmic point. Well, getting struck by lightning is definitely spiritual. And then attack on my heart, and then attack on my brain. Mental, physical, and spiritual. So each one of those processes are cosmological mindsets that go with secret societies. Okay, that I have experienced and been through each of those. So I'm telling people the truth, Lauren. And why? Because I know that in this time period, over the next 2 or 3 years, death and the causes of death will be not hidden. And all the systems that have worked to co-create the experience, pharmaceutical companies, food processing companies, all these conglomerates, all these people are going to be brought out into the light and people are going to see. You know, the biggest thing that the world, some recognize and don't recognize, is that if you have an industry that's about healthcare that's driven by profit motive, no one is going to be well. It defeats the capitalist model. Why cure somebody for something when you can have a treatable illness? And why cannot you control their diet to determine obesity and determine what's going to be the driving issues in controlling their health? Because, like you said, the fear of death and that physical thing that you're sitting in is really you. If those two things are not true, then every time somebody tries to tell you something about that or try to give you some perspective about it, you know they are delusional, they are a liar, or they're so misinformed that they can't see that the millions of us who come back with no agenda prove categorically that what they're saying is not true. So everybody has an out of body experience when you leave. And you leave because you're never going to die. And you're not really that body. And everything that you build off of what that body is, other than taking care of it, is a trap to make you think that's you. And that you can kill it because you can cause it pain. So you have to create a way to control. You have heaven or hell. Okay, you have these are your two ways to control it. What if you don't do what we say, which one and where you're going? Well, all that's craziness. I'm sorry. That's all craziness to a spiritual being. And so many of us fall for it. In all my journeys over there, other than having to face myself in the life review, then there has never been any kind of hellish experience. But remember this, if you kill me, I get really interested in the subject matter. So I studied the heaven and hell story. I mean, if I didn't go to hell, nobody was going. And if there was anybody who was going to go to hell, it was going to be me. And when it did not happen, then I had to study it. So I've looked at hell, and I've talked to people who've had near death experiences that were hellish. But there is no one that's had a near death experience that was hellish, which is about 3%, that is anywhere near as horrifying as me having to face my original self. Having to face me and my motives of what I was doing and why. There is no hellish experience that I've ever heard that gets anywhere near that. So about 1.5% of that 3%, I can understand it because I've been in the death and dying, near death business for 50 years. So I can understand. And there's another 1.5%, Lauren, that I have no idea. So I can't say categorically that there's a hell or not a hell. So what I'm working on now is what's called the Brinkley Center, and it's because that was a collective name that everybody decided to give it. The people who work with me, because I have a name, and okay, but it's never to do with me, Lauren. It's about being able to create a place where people can come to realize three things. That's the absolute, utter truth. You will never die. Because a lot of people are grieving. A lot of people have PTSD. A lot of people are suicidal because the world is changing. Well, if you're not going to die and you're not that body and you are an electrical being, then those three things are enough to shift consciousness. Consciousness shifts when you have to look at that. So how would you think that you're an electrical being? If you have a cell phone, I can prove that you're an electrical being. If you own a cell phone, I can prove you're an electrical being. And if you're not that body, because everybody's been dead since they've looked at their bodies. And then there are people who've had out of body experiences, nothing to do with death, that still observe their body. Okay. And that those of us who come back say you will never die and they're not afraid of death. Well, that should be enough to shift consciousness. So I'm out here pushing that. I created these centers because it was told to me to do. Between this one and the time that I would know best was when death would become a world phenomena. Like it happens every day, but how would it become a world phenomena? Healthcare. I said in 1976, when I could first speak, that the battle for the souls of humankind would be fought in healthcare. And I've woven my life in healthcare. Hospice, palliative, and end of life care. I get you at the end. I can be the most effective, the most caring, and the most understanding because I have been where you are. And I have been to the other side. But I have been where you are 4 times. Exactly where you are. And I have been to the other side. So I choose there. So where everybody is today is the fact that it would be healthcare and there would be a world war to put these centers in place. Well, when I saw the Holy Land afire, people killing each other in the Holy Land on Christmas Eve, I don't really know what happens to people when they believe a certain thing and like celebrating Christmas and all those things, and people are killing women and children. And 2 gods are fighting, Allah and Jehovah. Two religions fighting in the Holy Land. And people not paying attention to that and putting all the pressure they spiritually have and stopping that and finding a peaceful settlement as a thought of their every day scares me. Who are you? Who are we? What matters? And you're scared of death? And religion says you're going to go to heaven, to hell? Okay. Institution says they're not sure. It's your physical life that matters. And governments say you don't have any life after this one because it's the medical profession. I live with that and I just watch it unfold. A hospice volunteer is willing to go and face themselves and face their own fears. So many people, Lord, talk all of that. But a hospice volunteer and a CMA and a caregiver, these are the people who know the difference. I am not afraid of death, so I am comforting. I don't talk to people about near death experiences. I talk to them about them. I have studied death for 50 years at the bedside with thousands of people, not dozens, not hundreds, but thousands of people. So for me, if I could be at the bedside of somebody scared to death of something that is inevitably going to happen to them and help them structure closure in their life, I don't know a higher good that I could do in honor of the God that I believe in that gives me my knowledge and understanding. I do not know a higher ideal or goal that I could seek to achieve than to be that, if that's the difference that me and God makes. Okay, that I can be there, that before they go and lift out of their body and they have a life review and they go back to where they came from, and they celebrate the life of the team that came on the earth. Everybody comes to celebrate. You will see everybody that you've ever loved. You'll see everybody that's ever loved you. You see all your pets. I mean, everything that has to do that comes in love comes to celebrate you coming back. It isn't like you wander around in the clouds listening to some harp music. That's all nonsense. It's all nonsense. What you do is energetically combine with the force in the field and you reconnect. And once you reconnect, you can expand outward. You're not trapped as a body on earth. You're ethereal and eternal. And you look for opportunities and where you can make a difference. And once you set those kind of intentions, that stuff comes. It's not a lost realm. It's a conscious realm that you enter. I mean, this is just a job. We all come here because it's a job, and we get distracted because it's designed to distract us, to make us think we're going to die. You come here to suffer. If you don't do what I tell you, you're going to go to hell. As death becomes prevalent, what happens when death becomes prevalent? Pandemics and wars. Okay, so look at where we are in the aftermath of the last one, and look at the fear and control that will come with the next one, and look at the wars that are permeating into a world war as we have this conversation at this moment. Never in the history of the earth, in this particular recorded human history, have we been that close to mutual assured destruction. What actions do you take? If you're an American, you call your congressman and you call your senator and you tell them that you're against it, and you tell them your name and you vote and you just voted and that you're against it. Okay, that's just one person. I do this all the time. I'm not afraid of anybody. I'll call you on the phone. I'll tell you what I think about it. And it's just my voice, but I am doing something. What can I do? It's terrifying. Yeah, it's terrifying. But we're spiritual beings. We take action. We don't sit around and whine. We didn't come here to be afraid. We came here to be brave and courageous and see how to make a difference. That's what we do. And remember, if you're here now, then You are a part of the light bearer team. You come to birth a new age, and it's happening around you. I mean, I'm old, okay, so I know where my time is, but it's the world that my children and grandchildren and great grandchildren that inherit. And I want them to be brave. They're not going to die, and they're not that stupid body, and they are electrical. The meaning of life basically is we wanted to practice breathing to see what that was like. And we wanted to hug somebody and so that we could feel our love instead of be our love. Where I am and why I do these shows is I need people to go to Danyan.com, Lauren, and feel. Don't read it, but feel what it is I'm doing and support me. We have to grow up, everybody, and we have to be responsible. And you have to get on the phone whenever anybody sees this. The next day, they get on the phone and they call their congressman and senator's office. And you can call them locally. You don't have to call them in Washington. You can call their local office and say you're against the three things: child trafficking and war. And I'm calling on you as my representative to stop child trafficking and to stop war and to find peace. And if we're at war in the second year in the Holy Land, and Israel's fighting on two fronts instead of one front, what does that say about religions, institutions, and governments? They have failed us. So what do? We take action.
Thank you so much to Danyan Brinkley and Mel Minotaur. If you are inspired by Danyan's mission and the development of the Brinkley Center, you can visit Danyan.com. It's linked in the description. If you liked this video, please subscribe to T&H Afterlife for more videos about life and death.